I've been sitting with a thought that feels a little uncomfortable. Nothing dramatic, but something real. And that starts with a number most of us avoid. How long we're likely to live. How long we have left. I don't want to scare you, but I think most of us very naturally do two things. We avoid thinking about death, particularly our own, and we overestimate the amount of runway, the amount of life we have left, especially our healthy runway, our healthy life. And those two habits can distort how we spend our days. So, I'm going to do a little bit of maths, just enough to set the scene, and then we'll move on to what I think is the real point of this video. Now, I live in New Zealand. It's a first world country with modern healthcare to a reasonable standard, not the best and not the worst. Now, Statistics New Zealand publishes life tables that let you estimate remaining life expectancy at a given age. They're not predictions for any of us as individuals. They're population averages, but they give us a good idea of what we can expect. For a 57-year-old male in the European or other category, so broadly what most people mean when they say New Zealand Caucasian male, the period life table for 2022 to 2024 gives a median remaining life expectancy of 83.7 years. So, for someone like me, that's another 26.7 years. That's the key number. 26.7 years remaining. Two facts. Firstly, this particular table assumes current death rates. So if things improve, if science progresses, and we hope it does, then that number could be higher. And second, this is an average, which means that many of us could exceed it, but some of us will never reach this. Some of us won't even get close. And here's the part most people resist. Averages do not care about our optimism. They come from statistical calculation and they are based on real measurement. So a life expectancy of 83.7 is not saying, I personally have only 26.7 years left, but it is the center of the estimate. That estimation is the runway most men think is much longer than we actually have. And the real twist is it's not just years left, it's good years left. New Zealand reporting from the Ministry of Health shows the difference between life expectancy and healthy life expectancy, and it's real. We gain years, but a chunk of later life is often lived with real limitation, illness, infirmity, both mental and physical. And yes, we can do things that improve the odds. Smoking, for example, there's long-running evidence that suggests continuing smokers lose around a decade compared with non-smokers. That's big. But this is not a health advice video. This is a clarity video, because even if you do everything right, you're not buying immortality. You're just buying better probabilities. And probabilities mean some of us will draw the short straw. So, that's the scene. Now here's the actual heart of the video, so stay listening. When people hear the reality of the maths, of their remaining life, they often say, God, that's depressing, and I get it. But I think the real reason we find it hard is because it punctures two coping strategies we live inside. Denial of mortality and the delusion of infinite time. And those coping stories aren't bad, they're human. They keep us functioning day to day. But the downside is that they also make us live as if we had endless slack, infinite time, as if we can postpone the real things until later, as if one day is an actual day on the calendar. But the maths and the reality behind it don't care about our coping strategies or stories. And that's not being cruel, that's being clear. When time feels infinite, we tolerate a lot. We tolerate situations that drain us. We tolerate habits that shrink us. We tolerate lives that are basically fine, but a little empty. But when the runway looks finite and not that long, something changes. We start asking, what am I doing that doesn't deserve the cost? Let me give you a few ideas. I'm not anti-work. And we need money. We have responsibilities. We support our families, our children. We pay bills. That's real. But a lot of people are working or staying locked into high intensity work as if they've got unlimited time to enjoy the payout later. Now, I'm not saying quit your job and buy a van, but I am saying let's question our assumptions, because for many men, our retirement plan assumes a long retirement and a long stretch of good health within it, and enough energy that we can finally do all the things that we are postponing right now. And some of us may get that, and some of us will not. So the question becomes, how much of our best energy are we trading away working without thinking because we assume the runway is endless? Another time sink is what I call relationships on life support. Friendships or intimate relationships where we are trying to pay homage to history, trying to respect the past, trying to keep alive something that's been dead for years. And the cost is not just time, it's our emotional bandwidth and resilience. When we know the runway is finite, we get much more focused and honest. And then the third thing is comparison. People often say that comparison is the thief of joy, and that's a cliche for a reason, because there's reality underneath it. Comparison doesn't just make us unhappy, it makes us live in someone else's life, makes their life live in our head. And the older we get, the more we start seeing the hidden cost behind what other people parade. The stable marriage that contains two bitter, unhappy people. The big house built on stress and debt, and the success story that cost that person their peace or their health or their relationships or all of it. So we need to stop asking, how do I stack up? And we need to start asking, what is my own life actually for? Now I'm curious, what are the things that you've been putting off because you think that your real life will start one day? Please let each other know in the comments, and if this video strikes a chord with you, please let me and the algorithm know by liking the video. Please also consider sharing it with someone who also needs to hear this. Now, if we remove the junk, like work as default, draining relationships and comparison, we create space. What do we fill it with? When you listen to older people talk about regret, it's rarely, I wish I answered more emails. It's almost always, I wish I spent more time with the people I loved. wish I was more present with my children. I wish I stopped postponing joy until I thought I'd earned it. I wish I did the thing I kept saying I'd do one day. For me, one of those things was art. I loved drawing and painting when I was young. Then life got busy, university, career, relationships, responsibilities, and I set it down. But when I picked it up again later on, I realized it was never about being a great artist. It was about discovering peace, joy, and being alive in a different way. And I think a lot of us men have these neglected parts of ourselves sitting in storage, sitting in the back of the garage. Not because those parts don't matter, but because we told ourselves they were optional and that we would get back to them someday when we earned it. But if the runway is shorter than we pretend, maybe those things are not optional. Maybe they are the point. So yes, mortality can bring fear, but it can also bring crystal clarity. Limits do something strange. They pressure test fake priorities until they crack, and then we are left with a clean question. If I probably have something like 24 years left, give or take, how do I want to spend those years? The years where my body is still mostly with me, not frantic, not panicked, but steady. In a way, when we stop wasting time on the things that drain us and start investing in the things that make us feel like a whole human being again. That's it. That's my invitation to you. I'm Jared, and this channel is about rediscovering our identity in midlife and beyond. If this is a conversation you are up for, then you are more than welcome to stay.